Jared, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
It's good to see you.
Coming off the big trial win we talked about last time. Still there.
Yeah. It always feels good.
Right? To be the victor. Vegas, summertime, lots of pools in this town.
Yes.
People are swimming.
With
that comes injuries, far things worse than injuries. Accidental deaths, accidental drownings.
You know what happens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's horrible. So this isn't like there was no real danger here, but I appreciate my neighbors who perceived danger. We were at a neighborhood party. A neighbor was having it in their backyard.
Yeah.
And I had my kids there. This was years ago, and my 18-year-old back then was probably, like 5 or 6. Now, he could swim, and he could tread water. And but they're all playing around this pool in the backyard, and he's roughhousing with his older sister, and he slips and he falls into the pool. Now, I know he can tread water.
Yeah.
So I'm like taking off my watch, taking out my wallet, taking off my shoes. I'm about to jump in, but I know I've got a little bit of time before he's in any sort of real danger. But my neighbor, not even the one that owned the pool, the one down the street.
Oh, just another guest.
Just another guest. Just instantly, just jumped in, and I'm grateful.
Yeah.
You ruined his watch, and I took care of the watch because he was doing me a favor.
Yeah.
But it's the pools are wonderful, and they're good. I mean, I love the pools.
Yeah.
But they pose a real danger because
just like any other toy we have, right?
Every year you hear about a kid drowning.
Yeah. Sometimes it's at a pool party in front of a lot of people, and sometimes they accidentally get in the backyard by themselves.
Right.
So there's different ways this could happen.
Right.
What's the rules on like gates and stuff like that? Is there a policy on that?
Yeah. So first of all, you have to have a gate.
Okay, that's a new building code, right?
Yeah. You're going to have a gate. And let's say that we're not in the building code for a minute, and somebody gets hurt because you have a kid that has wandered into your yard and then gets into the pool. The answer is they're going to ask, why did you not have a fence?
Yeah.
It's just, they're at this level, they're kind of expected. And so if you don't have a gate, don't have a fence, and something bad happens, you're probably going to be held to that responsibility that you should have had that. So here's the basic rule. The base rule is when it comes to, we're going to look at two different things. We're going to look at trespassers and non-trespassers.
Okay.
So when it comes to it, like a pure trespasser, somebody you did not invite on your property at all, they've intentionally gone into your property, invading your property.
Yeah.
You don't really have much of a duty to them. You can't like try to hurt them. If you you can't set booby traps for them.
Yeah.
But you don't really have a duty to be reasonable for them.
But you can't set booby traps?
No. Okay. That's actually one of the first cases you learned in law school.
Make a note to myself really quick.
Take down the booby
Remove
traps.
booby traps.
Gotta disable them.
Yeah.
One of the first cases you read in law school is the spring-loaded shotgun, and you can't have those.
It's like a tripwire thing?
Yeah, there's a guy who set a tripwire for trespassers with a shotgun. And it turns out that the courts don't look kindly on that.
About ankle high.
Right.
High test wire. Okay,
so
note to self.
Disable. But when it comes to invitees, like people you've invited onto your property, the question is, did you act reasonably? And so when we're dealing with adults, it's going to be very situational. Was it reasonable? Was it not reasonable? But you're also dealing not just with your level of reasonability, but their level of reasonability, right? We just expect everybody to be reasonable. When it comes to kids, it's a little bit different. So when it comes to kids, we know that they're not going to be reasonable like adults,
right?
Right. And in fact, they're called jury instructions. So every time we're in front of a jury, a judge is going to read like a half-hour list of instructions telling the jury what are the rules for this case. And one of those, when we're dealing with a child, is always that we are going to deal with this child as though we expect him to act as a similar child of a similar age and maturity level. Which means you can have like a 10-year-old that has the maturity level of a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
And we're going to expect that kid, for purposes of responsibility, is going to act like a 10-year-old who has the maturity level of a 6-year-old.
Okay.
Now, if the kid is 18, we expect him to act as a reasonable adult. We don't care about what the maturity level is. We don't care. But when it's a minor child, a similar child of that age and maturity level.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we're dealing with kids, we're always going to be looking at, well, what did the adult do? And is what they did reasonable? Now, listen, you can have somebody act completely reasonably and somebody can still get hurt.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's...
It happens. I mean, accidents happen, right?
Accidents happen, and sometimes when the accidents happen, you look at the person who owns the pool and you say, well, they did everything reasonable. Now, the problem with that's always going to be a jury question. Like a judge is...
terrifying.
A judge is almost never able to say what he did was reasonable or unreasonable, because that's generally a question that we reserve for the jury. But one of the things we're going to be looking at is how old were the children? Were they of an age that they needed to be constantly supervised? If they're not in the pool area, like you've not invited them to the pool, was the pool area accessible? And again, how old are they? Like a 16-year-old getting in trouble in a pool that you have no idea they're like in the backyard at all is going to be different than a 2-year-old.
Who that went out a dog door and something chased a ball.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to trespassing, we don't care if they're kids as much. Like the rules that protect you, that protect a landowner from being sued by trespassers, generally does not apply if it's a kid.
Okay.
So if a kid trespasses on your land, and they get hurt by an artificial condition, like a swimming pool, then we're going to look and see if you've acted reasonably. And one of those things is going to be, was there offense? Now, my wife, when she was growing up, there was a kid in her neighborhood that had climbed over the cinder block wall and got into his neighbor's pool.
Yeah.
In a situation like that, I don't know how you prevent that.
And he drowned?
Yeah, he drowned.
Oh, shoot.
Because he would have, I don't know whether or not they had a fence, but he probably would have bypassed that fence.
He was determined to get to that.
Well, it was not only that, he climbed over the cinder block wall.
Yeah, with intent or whatever,
Right, which means that, assuming, I don't know what quadrant of that wall he went over, but if he went over the quadrant that was behind the fence, then what are you going to do?
Yeah, there's nothing you could do.
Right. And so at that point, a jury would probably look at that and say, well, I mean, it's horrible, but the owner probably did everything he was supposed to do. He put up a fence.
Yeah.
It's just the kid was climbed over the cinder block wall. But if the owner has not acted reasonably, then we would put it on the owner.
We've seen things, I have teenagers.
Right.
And we had a sports end of season type of party at someone's house. And in the text RSVP thing, there was also a disclaimer to print, and to bring with you. Are those valid? Like, is that real?
So here's the thing. I've never had to actually argue this specific thing in court. So, but I think I'm probably right. So normally disclaimers. I don't do a whole lot unless. So when we're talking about disclaimers, listen, I can disclaim liability all I want. That doesn't matter. Like I can put up a sign saying I am not responsible for anything that happens on this property.
Yeah, spring-loaded shotguns everywhere.
I can put up all the signs that I want. They generally mean nothing. What does mean something are waivers.
That's what I mean. It was like a waiver
or like a waiver.
Yeah.
Now the signed waiver, it has to be very specific about the risks that are being waived. Now, and it's not just the risk of death. Your kid could drown here, but it's also the risk of I'm not going to supervise your kid.
Yeah.
Like you're aware that kids are going to be roughhousing here, and there's going to be no adult supervision, and at that point, unless you've been very clear about the risk that's being waived, then it probably doesn't waive. But there's another interesting issue when it deals with kids, which is why when I get, when I have clients that have kids that have been hurt, but there's a waiver, I generally say, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. It's because we have in Nevada a rule that says you cannot compromise the claim of a minor without court approval. So what that means in practical terms is, let's say that there's like a car accident, a kid is hurt. We can't actually settle the claim at all without going to the court and having the court decide that this settlement for this claim is in the best interest of the child.
Gotcha. Okay.
And once we get the court to approve it, then we can settle. And if we don't have the court approval, even if money is exchanged, the claim is not settled.
Yeah.
And when the kid turns 18, they can still bring the claim. So if that statute that just simply says you cannot compromise the claim of a child, it doesn't say prospective or existing claim. It doesn't talk about the time period of the claim. And so I do have real questions, and I don't think this has been resolved by the courts, of if we can't compromise the claim, if we can't settle a claim after the fact, can we settle the claim through a waiver before the fact? If we can't waive it after the fact, can we really waive it
before? Yeah.
Before? And is that not a form of compromising the claim, a prospective claim?
Yeah.
And I don't know that we have a clear court answer on that, but I do worry whether waivers are ever truly effective when it comes to children.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's ever gotten hurt on that and had to like exercise that waiver, or he had to like use it, but like in that person's exact case, but I'm sure it's happened, right? Like,
well, we get these waivers where parents have signed waivers for the kids, and we've always been able to obtain a settlement, and I've never had to actually make that particular argument to the court.
Gotcha.
But that's kind of in the back of my head that if
it's ready,
if they really were trying to push the release thing or the waiver thing, then I wonder whether that would really be effective against.
It's probably why it never gets pushed, right? Because they know that it's really not going to work. Yeah. So it's like a bluff. Just sign it and go in and whatever. And,
right.
But yeah.
And so, but yeah, when you're dealing with kids, society puts a premium on protecting those kids.
And so in general, if you own property, you got to be careful. Go above and beyond to protect your property and the people in your property, because at the end of the day.
And if you're going to have we'll call it an attractive nuisance. That's a term we use in the law. If you're going to have like a swimming pool or something that that kids are going to try to break in or may try to break in and play with, especially younger kids that may not understand, then, act reasonably. And you might want to say you should go above and beyond it, and maybe you should. But the law requires you to act reasonably. Now, I wish I could tell you exactly what that means. But I think that means, at a minimum, following the recommendations. And if there's a county code or a building code that tells you to put a fence up and you don't have that, you're going to be deemed, I don't think there's going to be a jury in the world that says that you acted fully reasonably if you had to have that fence up. And even if the code is not required, let's say that it's not required to have that fence up. I think a lot of juries would still say, well, but maybe. But
like you even hear cases of these drownings happening at parties full of people, adults everywhere.
Right. Now so stuff like that gets stickier. Right?
Okay. Because that's, like that's a separate thing. Like now you've invited people.
Right. So now all of a sudden you're not protected by the trespass protection for adults. But then the question is, what was reasonable? And that is so fact specific, but I don't know. I mean, I'd have to know the exact facts of how is it you can have a party that somebody then drowned and the owner was not aware of, but you could totally see that happening. I mean, it could happen.
I mean, from toddlers to adults. I mean, every summer we have, probably, half a dozen here in town, where toddlers fall into a pool, supervised, unsupervised.
Sure. When it comes to if you're going to have kids in your house, like neighbor kids that aren't your own kids in the house, and you have that pool, then you better have a plan to make sure that it is inaccessible and supervised. And even if you have kids, I mean, I'm not saying you should not do those things for your own children. You certainly should do those for your own children. But when you're dealing with like the neighbor kids or kids you don't, I mean, you need to have a plan.
And then there was just one, really quick, just here in Henderson, where there was a noise call. There was a party, an adult party.
Right.
And there was a noise call and the cops came, they cleared the party, or they cleared the noise call, whatever they do, the party cleared out. One of the guests turns up missing. No one could find him. Then the next day they find him in the bottom of the pool.
That's
this was a 20-year-old man,
horrifying.
and that's still an ongoing thing. I don't know where
Right.
that's at because it was so recently.
So it raises a whole bunch of questions.
Yeah.
Right. But again, the core is what was reasonable for the owner to do. And it may be that the owner did everything reasonable.
Yeah.
It may be that they didn't.
Fact specific, right?
That's so fact specific.
Yep.
And quite frankly, if you were to make an insurance claim on that, the insurance company very possibly would say, we don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And so
in closing, I guess, what would be the best piece of advice to a homeowner with a pool that wants to have people over for a pool party?
ask yourself, what would a reasonably cautious person do?
Okay.
That's always going to be your guidance.
Yeah.
What am I following? One, the law. Like if there's a code that says I need to have a fence on it, I don't have a pool, so I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
But my understanding is there is a code that says you need to have a fence. And maybe our viewership will tell me I'm wrong there.
I'm pretty sure there is.
I think there is. I've just never had to
Yeah.
look at it myself. But two, that even regardless of code, am I acting as a reasonably cautious and prudent person? Because
Gotcha.
at the end of the day, that's the obligation. Act as a reasonably cautious and prudent person. And if you've done that, then in theory, you should be good.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's pool safety in Las Vegas. Again, like I said, it's just something we needed to, briefly touch on because it's such a common occurrence out here. It's 110 degrees. Everybody's jumping in the pools.
Yeah.
We have pools. I think we have more pools here than most other cities. I think I read something about that, but yeah.
Yep. Well, there you go.
There you go, homeowners. Be careful. What was it? Act what?
Act like a reasonable, prudent, cautious person. And then you're good.
In Las Vegas. Thank you, Jared.